parents buying for their children was a category that I saw was going to move online in a very dramatic manner. And because parents fundamentally want more information about the products that they consume for their kids. They want more, in an offline world, you're limited to whatever the physical product packaging is, right? But in an online world, you have information, you have videos, but more importantly, you have validation of other parents, right? Through reviews and, maybe a social community and so on. And so I felt that like this was a, category or cohort of consumers that is going to shift online rapidly, right? With the advent of social media, you've been able to reach consumers anywhere in the world, and through e-commerce platforms and Shopify and others. There was infrastructure being created to actually cater to this demand. And so with those two ideas, I was like, why not try and build a global brand for India? And that's why the company is called Grasper Global. Grasper because we were focused on kids products and children grasp and learn concepts, and global because right at the outset, we decided that we would try and build a global consumer brand. And I thought that the barriers were going to keep going down, and more importantly, you had some very strong structural benefits. Right, every parent wants to give their children, help them build formative skills, whether it's learning how to write or build social and communication skills. Um, the basic need of every parent to give their children as much of a head start is a very real need. Two, globally, parents were looking for products that could keep their kids engaged and off screens. Right. Today, if your child, anyone who has a child who's like, let's say, sub 6, you want to limit your screen time in, and sub 3 probably not have any screen time, right? And therefore, we felt that there was a need for high quality, engaging products that were helping parents solve this problem, that their kids could be occupied without having to give them a tablet or a phone. Our primary consumer is the parent, right? So what I mean is, when we look at our marketing strategies, they're largely driven around marketing towards parents in terms of like, the whole learn through play proposition that we bring to the table, where we're solving the parents' problems, right? Like, how do we ensure that my child learns, builds the right skills, is kept off screens, is independently occupied? Like, these are all parental problems, or so that's, I would say, the primary marketing strategy. That being said, obviously, it's, the brand would never have got to where, going to be over 500 crores this year in revenue, if it was not for kids loving our products, right? And so I think from a marketing perspective, that's how we look at it. From a development perspective, we spend a lot of time and effort ensuring that kids love our products, right? And therefore, the play testing that we do, we actually have like almost like a nursery and play area in our office, where we have kids coming in and day out, really testing the form factors and the use cases that we're developing. That is very important because, like I said, kids have to love it. But obviously, in the US now, people don't want to put plastic in children's products. So plastic toys are sort of, not as desirable as, like, say, something like Skillmatics, which is educational and more sustainable, given that we're non-plastic largely. And so, we have this like sampled out where 18 million kids would have got this over the course of a year or so. And that really is an example of a marketing strategy that was more aimed at the child than the parent. So direct to consumer is very much core to our business model. We started as a D2C brand. I think some of the benefits of being direct to consumer are, ability to get faster feedback loops, right? You are able to launch quicker. You're able to like A/B test your offering, whether it's tweaking your images or your SEO or your, your descriptions, or you're able to like learn in a much more rapid fashion. And I think that is one very strong, compelling advantage of being direct to consumer. Two, I think that it also allows you, just as a business model, to actually like directly test your proposition with consumers. I think early on, one of the challenges we had was, we tried to go initially through the traditional sort of distributor-led model to, at least address global markets. So also our success online has enabled us to now be present in I think 15 to 20,000 retailers globally, retail stores globally. And so I think that is, those are the two sort of big advantages of starting direct to consumer. I think the other also big advantage, as I mentioned earlier, was just like being able to rapidly test products. Online, the cost of failure is a lot lower. So you can just, test, learn, and then scale the winners without having necessarily invested significant amounts in inventory. Our own software across the entire business, right? Our entire business, like whether it's the analytics that we use to inform our product strategy, or it's the sort of the entire tech that we built to go from ideation to launch in 2.5 months. The amount of softwares we use to effectively market, whether it's third-party SaaS tools to identify which influencers will give us the highest ROI. I mean, we use a ton of software across the business model, across everything from product, ops, and marketing. Also, keep in mind we're a global business, right? So for us, we have two offices in the US, we have an office in the UK, and we have obviously offices in India. Um, you know, we use a lot of software to just collaborate between our teams. We not just Zoom, but like there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we have to also use to actually manage people from all over the world. So yeah, that's another sort of underappreciated piece. I think early on, I would say that, when we started, no one was willing to fund us. The whole feedback that we got was like, I was very insistent that I wanted to build a Skillmatics as a global brand from India. And no VCs were willing to buy that. They were like, how are you going to do it? Like, why don't you just focus on India? There's very, or like, I think there was not playbooks built up or past examples of people who had done it. So therefore, you know, there was not as much conviction, I would say, in the idea, rightly so. So initial years we were bootstrapped, right? So I think first 3 years fully bootstrapped. I think that made our company very capital efficient, very profitable. We've always been profitable because of sort of this. But I think in 2019, we started to get a break, and I think the first investors that came in were, Sequoia Capital at erstwhile Sequoia Capital, now Peak 15. And they really sort of sort of understood our vision and what we were going for. And then since then, we've raised 3 rounds of funding: seed, Series A, Series B. We've not raised money now three plus years, because as I mentioned, the business is profitable. In fact, we've not even used anything from our Series B, actually very little of that. So we have a fair amount of cash in bank. We've raised a total of 24 million. We have two large institutional investors, Peak 15 and Sofina. And then we're lucky to be supported by some really amazing family offices also. So we have, the Dani family office, sort of associated with Asian Paints, a promoter family. And then we have, for example, the Patni family office, also built Patni company. So, I think like that, we have a few other angels as well, who've been, very meaningful partners to us in our journey. So definitely. So I think, look, we're fairly global. I think 85% of our business is outside India, 85% plus, right? So we're more global than we are. I mean, our global revenues are a larger share of our revenues overall. That being said, I think India is just exploding for us right now. India is by far the fastest growing market for us. And, while we're growing at 70 to 80%, India is growing at like over 100, well over 100%. So, I mean, obviously, I think dynamics are changing, and the Indian market is now really inflecting from our consumer category perspective. Also aided by things like BIS norms coming in and so on. But I would say that our largest market would be North America, US and Canada, without a doubt, followed by the UK. So I think these would be the two blocks. The strategy that we've employed is not rocket science. We sort of built a very strong online presence first. We have hundreds of thousands of followers on our social handles. We've built a very strong Amazon presence. We are maybe 300,000 plus reviews on Amazon, built a lot of credibility, and then leverage that success to build out a very strong offline business. Now we have, as I mentioned, two offices in the US, very large team now on ground, selling into all major retailers, and therefore it's been a sort of a step-by-step process, but that's how we've done it. While we're at 500 crores, we still have a lot of headroom to grow, given that it's such a large opportunity. We want to expand deeper into these core markets. I think we're very, very excited about India now. I think the market is really inflecting, and we've got a very strong leadership position in the Indian market as well. And so we're quite excited about the next couple of years in India. And so I would say like just focusing on our core markets is probably really the top priority. Launching more products, continuing to expand into newer segments. I think it's just more of the same. Building online, building offline, and so on. I think the second piece is that we are exploring a few other markets that are quite exciting. We're seeing a lot of traction in places like Australia and the Middle East. And so, those are potential, levers for us to further expand into by setting up local teams and so on, maybe down the road. But, right now, we're just sort of focused on building our presence online in those markets. Right? We want to be an iconic brand, globally. So, whether you're in the US or in the UK or in India, when you think of Skillmatics, you as parents and as children, you feel that this is really like an amazing brand that basically gives really engaging, high quality learning products. And I think if we can cement that space in people's hearts and minds, like that would be where I would love to, be, and sort of be the default brand that people turn to. And I feel if we can continuously innovate on product and marketing to make that happen, I'm sure the revenue numbers will then take care of themselves.